Hello, fans, and welcome to another edition of Reflections. Now, I've interviewed a lot of people on Reflections. I've interviewed Kurt Angle, I've interviewed Matt Hardy, I've interviewed a lot of people. But I'll tell you what, we have a lineage here. We have a man whose name carries so much weight in the world of professional wrestling, a man whose name alone is legendary in the business. He has been all around the world. He's wrestled everybody you can possibly imagine in the business. And we're going to hear, right now, with Barry O, Barry Orton. Welcome to Reflections, Barry O.
Hey, nice to be here, man.
It's great to have you here.
Nice to see everybody. I don't really know what they expect from me tonight, but they're only going to get about 30% of it.
30% is better than 0%. So we're glad you're here. We got a table just like the Daily Show.
All right.
Forget about the cameras. Who cares? It's just me and you having a conversation about your life.
Okay.
Tell me what it was like to grow up under the umbrella of a wrestling family.
Well, it was very odd.
I can imagine.
At times it was very odd because my father had this deal. He didn't want any of the kids at school to know who we were.
Right.
Because that would cause conflict.
Sure.
Or so he thought. And so we weren't allowed to tell anybody.
Right.
And so basically, my father was a insurance salesman.
Interesting.
Or something to do with that.
Did you feel like, was your dad there for you? Like, was he home a lot? Or was, because of the fact that he was a wrestler, like, did you feel like he was not there for you? Did you feel like you had something to prove to your brother and father? Or did you do it for yourself?
I guess that part of me wanted to show Bob that I could hang with him.
Sure.
That I could, go with him and last with him. And
Right.
I made a couple of mistakes.
For instance?
Along the way, partying.
Sure. But it wasn't everybody doing that?
Well, yeah, but I was taking it to kind of another level.
Okay. So you think that scared off?
I think that it made him back up and see, But they gave me chances. I mean, that's one thing I say about Vince is he gave me. He saw something, and he was hoping. He was on my side. He was hoping that I would get it together, and they could use that.
Right. So you had a car wreck, and unfortunately, someone passed away.
Right.
Right. And you had to spend some time in jail. So what was going through your mind, like, at this point in time? Like, was that, like, a pretty low point for you?
Well, of course.
Yeah.
Especially because, taking somebody's life is not something I thought I'd ever do.
Right. And you were under the influence at the time behind the wheel?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And you went to trial?
I pled not guilty, but the prosecutor liked me.
Right.
Because he called me up one day, and after I'd filled out all the paperwork, and he said, he goes, I've got all your paperwork here. He goes, and there's nothing in it that mentions anything about remorse. And I just went, are you crazy? I said, remorse? I said, man, I'm losing my mind. I said, all the lives that I've destroyed and touched.
For sure.
And ruined. And I spoke to the WWF in that time. And
how were they? Like, as far as, like, from a...
Well, they weren't shut the phones off.
They didn't shut the door on you?
No. But they did say, we can't use you until, you get this straightened out.
Did you understand that?
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course I did, And that's when I got booked in Calgary.
So let's talk about the WWF locker room at the time. Hulk Hogan's pretty much the king. He reigns supreme. What was he like? Did you have any interaction with Hulk Hogan whatsoever?
Oh, I don't want to talk about it.
I'm gonna assume
Him in a negative way.
I'm gonna assume that's negative.
But he's a fucking egotistical son of a bitch, man. And I mean, I can play, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they fucking stole that just to ruin him. That's why Hulk Hogan can suck my dick. Mm-hmm. I did a 6-hour trip with Terry Garvin.
Right.
And the whole trip, he was smoking his weed and stuff.
It was just you and him? You and Terry Garvin?
Yeah. And the whole trip, he was going, "Come on, Barry, just let me suck your cock."
Right.
Look, you know, I ain't got nothing against it. If
Right.
that's, you know, if that's your thing, I understand. But that's just, you know, I wouldn't feel comfortable, you know. And he actually got mad, and he didn't even ride back with me. He sent me back alone.
Now, let's talk about Phil Donahue.
Okay.
You're going on this show. You're going to face Vince McMahon face to face. You're in the green room. I assume there's a green room. What are the thoughts going through your mind before you enter this arena where you're going to be sitting there in front of national television and you're going to be looking eye to eye with the man, Vince McMahon, who is basically giving your brother a job, your father, whatever, whoever. He's at this point in time probably the most powerful man in professional wrestling. And you're going to be standing and you're going to be looking eye to eye with him and you're going to confront him with this.
I was totally unprepared. And the reason I was unprepared is because the reason I was so angry is because Vince called me a liar, said it didn't happen. And then he said, "Well, how do we know he didn't do it?"
Right.
And that pissed me off. He came up to us and said that kid had been paid off. And if any of you guys...
The ring boy.
Yeah.
His name?
Yeah. What's his name?
Oh man, I know his name. Cole? Yeah, Tom Cole.
Okay. If anybody would have mentioned his name, he was going to stand up and go, "Vince is the only one that cares," and blah, blah, blah,
And he
blah,
was
blah.
sitting in the crowd with Linda McMahon.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. I didn't know any of that. And when I heard that, I was so depressed and humiliated.
Did you feel set up?
Yeah.
So you're sitting face to face with Vince McMahon in 1987 or whenever this Phil Donahue show aired. If you could sit face to face with Vince McMahon in 2017, what would you say to him?